I'm curious to know your perspective. Tech valuations have crumbled somewhat in the days after Donald Trump, or since Donald Trump was elected president. I would like to know why. Is a Trump presidency really a dark cloud for technology?
No, I don't think so.
Because I can't quite see that.
I don't think so. If you look at the stock and bond market in the last few days, there's been a lot of fleeing away from bonds into stocks because people believe that the Trump administration will spend freely. And for the tech industry, it's an opportunity. And from our own company, we bring education to all of America. It's a great reminder that everybody deserves great education, and we're just going to offer it to everybody.
Peter Thiel is part of Donald Trump's transition team. Does he have Silicon Valley's back?
I think he's being debated, and some of the statements he made during the Trump nomination were certainly not welcome by everybody. But he also has a point. He's looking forward to a different era, and he wants to get rid of big politics. And Silicon Valley is a very democratic place. People are open to accept new opinions all the time.
What do you think he stands for as it concerns, broadly speaking, your industry?
I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a fresh wind in Washington, D.C. And most of us don't know what it means because we never met David Trump before. We don't know he hasn't said very much in the election campaign. But I'm optimistic. I think he has the nation at his heart and wants to bring us forward.
Sebastian, people know you best for developing or being one of the chief developers behind Google's self-driving car. Every day, it seems like the dream of autonomous vehicles are that much closer to reality. The question is how much closer? How long before we're there?
I think we are really, really close. People underestimate how close we are. So I've sit in Google's cars for many, many years, and I can tell you they drive better than most people drive, myself included. So it's really not a question of technology anymore, it's really a question of business, launching the first products and then moving to the market.
That raises an important question. What is the business model for autonomous vehicles?
There's about 2 or 3 different models. There's models that Tesla pursues, where a car would offer you as an owner the capability to have a self-driving car so you don't have to focus on driving anymore.
Take my hands off the wheel, so to speak.
So I have a Tesla myself, I love it. It's not perfect yet, but it's actually quite good. And the other one is transportation as a service, where you have an Uber-like company, a Didi, a Lyft, where you go to your phone and you order your car, it comes, picks you up, and then you get transported wherever you want to go, and you just wave it goodbye and it serves somebody else. Now, the transportation as a service ultimately is the bigger impactful disruption in the world because we don't need as many cars. It's been estimated we only need about a third as many cars as we have today if the Ubers and Lyfts in the world would supply us with taxis would come to us self-driving.
So it's pretty easy in that scenario to figure out who the losers will be in a world of self-driving cars. Car manufacturers, presumably, if they're going to make 1/3 fewer vehicles than they make today. But based on what we've seen and what you know, which companies will the winners be?
Well, obviously tech companies will have a strong position. And in most disruptions, you find that the incumbents were hard to move fast enough.
They're trying.
And even though automotive companies are trying very hard right now, if I were to place my bets right now, I'd place it on companies like Google and Uber and NVIDIA and Didi and many other tech companies.
I have heard it said that autonomous vehicles will be as revolutionary to mankind as, say, the personal computer or perhaps the smartphone. What do you think?
I think people often use big words for inventions, and they're going to come slowly, not super fast. It's going to be a while before we can replace in the United States 100 million existing vehicles with self-driving cars. But yes, they will be revolutionary, and the winners will be the American family. The American family spends on average something like $40 a day on transportation, a huge amount of money, and we can make this much less expensive.
Well, if we're going to talk about revolutionary forces, which ones would you put your money on? Which ones do you think have the most promise, the most power when it comes to transforming the way we live, the way we behave, the way we spend money?
Look, I'm a tech optimist. I believe that only 1% of interesting things have been invented yet, and 99% will be invented in the future. The reason why I believe this is because almost everything interesting we have today, from airplanes to smartphones, were invented in the last 150 years. So in the next 50 years, we're going to see an acceleration of invention. So, for example, I think we're going to cure most diseases, most cancers. We might end up finding ourselves living twice as long. There's a really good shot we're going to solve fusion as an energy source and many, many other things.
So that's the optimist's view. And I want to embrace it, I want to believe it. But there's some pessimists out there as well. Whether it's autonomous vehicles, whether it's industrial automation, whether it's machine learning or artificial intelligence, we appear to be facing a future of A, fewer jobs, and B, jobs that require more training, perhaps part of the reason you're in the education business now, or at least a different set of skills, right, than the education system we currently have is built to provide. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. The skill set in the future has to be different from the past. And more importantly, we can't afford having a single education anymore. We have to have education throughout our lifetime. And that's where companies like Udacity come in. We partner with individuals who look for better jobs. We even give a money-back guarantee if our students can't find a great job. And we help people stay upskilled in all their entire career.
What about the quantity of jobs, though? What kind of an unemployment rate? So if these predictions pan out, for good or for bad, what kind of an unemployment rate are we going to be looking at 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now?
I think the unemployment rate depends a lot on our policies, what we do as a nation. If we are stagnant and we rest on our laurels, we're going to go into mass unemployment and very low labor participation rates. But if we move the education scheme from one-time education to lifelong education, I think we can harvest even more of creative energy of the human mind.
But what about people, for example, the kinds of people who may have voted for Donald Trump, who are not just concerned about the lives and the standards of living that they have or don't have today, but the lives and the standards of living that they see their children having?
I think there's a great opportunity for us as a nation, and we have to really radicalize ourselves behind this opportunity, which is, over the centuries, people have moved from field work to intellectual work, and as a result, we become more and more creative as a society. Humans have not even harnessed what we are capable of doing in terms of creativity. If we upskill ourselves, if we stay skilled, if we keep learning, and we keep going with technology, we can move the world.
But not everybody can upscale.
It's always been true that not everybody can upscale, but we can never direct our society according to the slowest elements in society. We have to move fast, we have to move technology, we have to move forward.
Now, the United States has long been, well, I say long, perhaps not over the course of human history, but for the past half century, has been the heartbeat of innovation. Where's that going to be 50 years from now?
I believe the United States has a good chance of staying at the center of innovation. And the reason is we attract some of the most interesting people from all around the world. I'm a big immigration fan. I'm an immigrant myself. And I've given more than 1,000 people a job in my little career. But I think it's important for us to keep smart people immigrating to Silicon Valley and other states in the United States. If we don't do this, and if we stop focusing on things like top-notch education, then others will take over, like China.
So we've come full circle. What if a new government shuts the door to immigration?
I just so hope that the new government will not shut the door to immigration. Immigration has been the United States' strongest element. And while there are certainly questions about illegal immigrants and so on, I think we really are a nation of immigrants, myself included.
And if it were to happen, what would the implications be? What happens to Silicon Valley? What happens to American competitiveness?
Well, if the United States shuts the door entirely to immigration, which I don't believe,
entirely no.
I bet other places will pick up and take over from us as the most creative nation on the planet. We need to be open towards smart people, educated people from all around the world, and let them immigrate and let them build businesses and create work for Americans.
And Sebastian, to conclude, of all the trends and undercurrents in technology today and what's on the horizon tomorrow, what excites you the most?
I'm really intrigued by recent progress in transportation, not just self-driving car. I envision at some point flying cars. I'm really stoked by work in medicine, on diagnostics. There's now a lot of work on finding cancer long before it becomes symptomatic, which is really interesting. And I'm psyched by education. Now we can finally democratize education around the world. I'm currently in Saudi Arabia. We're opening Udacity offices here in Riyadh to teach the Middle East great computer programming skills. That level of access to education has hitherto not been available. I'm really excited about this.